Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by mostvaluablepodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show. So from one Chicago winter sport to another, let's talk about the Chicago Blackhawks. Guys, thank you so much if you're on YouTube checking out this segment of Behind the Pen. Drop a like, comment down below, share if you wish. Hope you enjoy what you hear, and I got to say this. I'm not a big hockey guy. Okay, I just want to make that clear. However, I am fan enough to pay attention, to be a part of it, to understand what's going on. Believe me, the Blackhawks run from, 2009-10 to today, that was one of the most exciting periods in Chicago sports that I've experienced in a very long time because they dominated the game for almost a decade, right? And now we're talking about the Blackhawks, the number one seed in the Western Conference, losing to the 8th seeded Nashville Predators, and they're done before May. And as fans of the Blackhawks, we're kind of used to having the Blackhawks alongside us into the better part of summer, right? June, even early July if it extends to that point. But, the last two seasons, the Hawks have been eliminated in the first round. Last year was a pretty good series. St. Louis was a lot of fun. But this year against Nashville, they just got outplayed in every facet of the game, in all four contests. So I want to break down what I saw in the series a little bit, throw out some talking point. I'm not going to really go super in-depth about the Blackhawks and their season this year, but I just can't help but I have to talk about them because this is so unprecedented for what we're accustomed to seeing within this organization, at least over the last few seasons. So we're looking at it now, they're done. Best team in the West, they clinched the top seed relatively early before the regular season ended, chasing Minnesota for a large portion of this year, and they clinch and then pretty much coast for the rest of the regular season. Obviously, you're going to rush. You don't want to get hurt or anything, but they were just coasting. They were fine losing 7-0 against Florida. Got beat by Florida 7-0 that one day. That was really bad, but it's fine. Because they were prepping for the playoffs, and it's all good. They got into the playoffs, and they just got beat. They got outworked. They got out-hustled. Guys were making maximum effort plays on the other end, while Chicago's being very complacent with where they stood. And they just kind of believed, we'll pick it up. We'll get it. We'll be fine. We'll be all right. Pressure's on them. We're the best team in hockey. Nothing. Absolutely, we saw nothing. Panarin was non-existent. We saw Jonathan Toews do what he could. He had 1 point? He had an assist. I could be wrong. Patrick Kane, he scored. But you look at those guys who have made plays. Marian Hossa worked hard at puck possession. That's his game. Well, you didn't really see much. Hawks got outplayed, guys. And we're looking at this franchise now. And I just want to throw the question out there. Do you think this is the end of the Blackhawks? Blackhawks run at dominance? Because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, they've made the playoffs in consecutive seasons going back to the 2008-2009 year, I believe. That was their first year making the playoffs. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong. See, I should have looked this up, but it's Toews and Kane. I think Kane was a rookie. Toews is in his second year, I believe, something like that. And that was when really the dominance started. 2010, they played outstanding and ended up winning their first cup going back to, the 60s? And now we're staring at a Blackhawks team who was eliminated in back-to-back seasons in the first round of the playoffs. So we have to change our approach here in the Blackhawks. And I'm looking at this roster, and, when you're talking about hockey, especially when you have the core, right, with Kane and Toews, they're going to be back for a while. And Panarin has been such an unbelievable pickup to go alongside a scoring machine with Patrick Kane. Whenever you're on the line with Kane and even Anisimov as well, Anisimov's been huge at the center position, but you get playmakers next to Kane, and that player will produce unbelievably. But you look at the star-studded players, and you needed them to step up, and they didn't. And we're looking at other guys, on this team, and you can't really put the blame on them. Like Schmaltz, what are you going to do? He's 21 years old, and you're looking around at the leaders of the squad, and they just haven't been anything. Anisimov was bad, but he was coming off an injury in this series, which is understandable. You look at guys who on the defensive side. Now that was one of the things too. As I watched this series, as I went through in the first round, is where was the intensity on the defensive end? You're looking at the pairing. Seabrook looks really old. Duncan Keith looks gassed. That guy, I think, has played more minutes than anyone in hockey over the last 7 years. It's just incredible. If you add in the playoff minutes and ice time and all that stuff, he is one of the best defenders that I've ever seen, Duncan Keith. However, it just looks he's totally out of gas. Then you look at the other pairings. Brian Campbell, right, and Johnny Oduya. That was just god-awful. That was not good at all. Then you move on to Trevor Van Riemsdyk and Hjalmarsson. They were doing their thing. I like Hjalmarsson a lot. Hjalmarsson is a guy who will sacrifice his body, block a bunch of shots. He's pretty solid positionally. He protects the blue line well. But you look at that defensively specific. They got beat. They were being outworked. And you looked at when they were in the offensive zone, there was a star difference, in my opinion, between the two teams. When the Hawks were in the offensive zone, you looked at them to, obviously their game is to finesse. They're not going to hit anybody, right? But they didn't win in the corners. They didn't win along the boards, and they weren't getting good shots. Pekka Rinne, great save percentage. He played very well in the series, but the Hawks weren't getting quality chances throughout. So it made Rinne's job relatively easy for an NHL goalie. They weren't really getting presence in front of the net, screening Rinne, and that was, it helped him put up a very solid performance. Now, you got to give credit. He made a lot of game-changing type saves. Sure, he did well enough to win the series in 4. Yes, absolutely. But when you look at the defensive side, I don't know, like I said, hockey guy, whatever, but what I'm seeing is on one side, Nashville's pinching all the time, keeping the pucks in the zone, and making plays. And meanwhile, the Blackhawks are just sitting back. They're complacent. They sit on their heels. They fall back, and they're allowing Nashville to get in the zone relatively easy. They pass the neutral zone relatively easy, and they set up an offense. I don't know. When I looked at the intensity there, specifically on the defensive side, I thought it was lacking, and I thought Nashville was all over them, and I thought they played well enough to be where they are today. They deserved to kick the Hawks' ass, especially the way that the Hawks were playing on that side of the blue line. So, I was really upset. I'm not going to lie. I was really upset with watching this Blackhawks team because I'm not used to seeing them play with such lack of energy, lack of heart, lack of competitiveness. And what does that attribute to? Why are the Hawks bad this year? Why did they suck in the playoffs? Did it have to do with their finish to the regular season? Did they not carry enough momentum because they knew they were going to be a top seed in the West, right? Are they just tired? Because you have guys who have been in this position over and over again. Hossa, Hjalmarsson, Keith, Seabrook, Taves, Kane, and Panarin logged a lot. He's still young, but I'm not going to give him a pass. He was non-existent. But guys like all across the board, they've been here. And the point of Brian Campbell coming in was to win another ring, right? To attribute, and the Blackhawks for years have been trying to fill the bottom pairing in the defensive side of the game. Even 3 defensive positions, because I don't know how confident you are in TVR, and you're still playing Oduya when he's old and slow and bad. Then you bring in Campbell, who's the same way. It's just, obviously you got to let go of Nick Leddy, right? He's one of the guys who stands out to me as an elite defender that they weren't able to keep because of the cap restrictions. That's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. But you got, it just sucks because you're not used to seeing the Blackhawks suck this much. And you move on too. Not going to knock Joe Quenneville, and I'm not a guy who's going to obviously do that. He's a champion, brilliant hockey mind. I'm not going to undermine, obviously, one of the greatest coaches in the history of the game. But I'm sitting here thinking, well, it took you a while to, remove Oduya from the lineup, and how much are you going to implement Richard Panik into the equation? Because I think Panik's a game changer. He could be, at least, surrounded by the correct personnel. You got guys like Kane, Taves, Panarin, getting guys involved, Hossa, puck protector. By the way, Marian Hossa, that long contract that the Hawks signed early, I believe it was prior to the 2010 season, incredible. The guy has been absolutely money for what the Hawks expected out of him and what they're paying him. I think he totally earned that contract. That's my opinion. Hawks fans, let me know what you think about Marian Hossa. The guy's a great, absolute legend in the game of hockey. But I'm looking at this situation with the Chicago Blackhawks. Are they done? Are they done? I'm throwing it out there. I think they're going to be in the playoffs as long as, like I said, this core is put in place, and as long as they're able to hang on to specific players, because obviously you can't do it with everyone, but Panarin's a must-have, and Taves, Kane obviously have been locked up for the long haul. Anisimov, you're going to look for a second-line center, and Anisimov's been there for you, and I think he's been pretty consistent throughout his time in Chicago. But it's over, guys. Blackhawks eliminated in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs, and they were slated as a Stanley Cup contender. A lot of people had them winning it this year. They were loaded, guys. This team was very talented. Because they're done now and they're out of the playoff conversation. So anyway, you got a little taste of the Blackhawks there. It's too bad that we're not able to, go out and enjoy Blackhawks hockey into the summertime. But we have Major League Baseball now, and we have to wait for the Chicago Bears, obviously, to make their draft selection. It's a long off season. The Bulls, we're going to follow them until they inevitably, just lose by themselves, probably. But until then, guys, that's it. Are the Hawks done? Let me know your opinion. Let me know down below. Drop a like if you could. I really appreciate you sticking around. I'm not a big hockey guy, but I had to talk about the Hawks. I had to do it this year because, well, bye-bye Hawks, the mighty. Blackhawks are not mighty anymore because they got eliminated in the first round both years of the Western Conference playoffs. Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more most valuable podcast content, click on the video up above because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.